What's up, everyone on YouTube? It's Driver KG, and today I'm going to tell you the differences between the manual transmission in the 8-speed wet dual clutch in the 2022 and 2023 Elantra N. But I just wanted to show you guys real quick what I did here with this car. I did finish up some of the other side with the cartoon Borderlands type thing, so let me show you. So here we go. This is it. This side was done with a Sharpie, and this actually sticks. I can scratch it, all of that. You can see, get it to focus there. But it actually came out pretty good on this side. Like, it makes me like it a lot more. And, you know, overall, it looks a bit better. I like it a lot more with, you know, something actually done to it. So that just shows you right there, you know, all that is done. But again, just Sharpie. It's a little windy out here. Sorry for the wind. It's going to be the ultimate test of this S24 Ultra. So, and then this side you already seen. Something that's really cool is I took off the badge on the back that had Elantra spelled out, and you can see when I stuck it up here, it kind of stuck into there. Took some of the paint with it, which ended up coming out pretty nicely. But back to what we were talking about. I just went to go sit in the car. It's a little windy out, but if you look outside of the car, you're not going to notice anything different other than there's just no sunroof up here, which, I mean, you guys know that. But when it comes to driving and drivability, there is a little bit of a difference that I noticed. Now, all in all, like, over everything, the manual is way more fun. Like, when it comes to putting down the power, stock for stock, the DCT does feel a little sluggish, only sometimes, like, you know, when you're used to it. So if you had a tune and say, like, you go back to stock mode, which I did on the other car, I went back to stock mode for a while, for like 2 or 3 days, maybe a week, before I went back to a tune, because I was going into the dealer for something, and the car just did not feel very peppy, if you will. But again, I was used to it being 100 more horsepower than stock. But when it comes down to it, this car with the manual transmission, stock form, it felt a little more, it felt like I had more guts. It felt like I had more torque. And maybe it's just a thing with manual transmission cars, which I've driven a bunch of them, and sometimes the automatic counterpart usually feels somewhat just a little bit more, you know, peppier. But wow, that was some powerful wind. But for some reason, this car, it just, going up to 15 psi, it just felt like it had more, which it doesn't. The DCT is always going to be faster stock for stock, especially on the top end. And I'll include a video right here showing you the difference of me stock with a passenger, and then one of my friends, he's also stock and he had no passenger, but you know, it's gonna give or take. I was able to get some 60 to 100s. I did not take the car up to 130, didn't get any chances to when it was on the stock file. We're currently on a really aggressive stage 2 for no bolt-ons, but we do have the meth mixed up, hooked up, and we have the downpipe on, have the high pressure fuel pump, and a lower motor mount from TurboTech. Now, like I said, I did get some draggies. I'll leave those right here. Now, you could notice that one of them is a lot lower, the 6.8, and that's only because I was going downhill, so I don't really want to count that. But when I had the DCT, I also did 60 to 100s, and that one also was about the same, maybe a little bit more sometime, and that's probably because heat soak. But the best I was able to get out of that was a 7.8 or a 7.6 depending. It seems like in those lower speeds, just how this manual is, it is going to be slightly peppier at those lower speeds, but when it comes to shifting, no matter how fast you shift, you're never going to be as quick as that dual clutch. That's just a fact of the matter of it. Now, another thing I will say I noticed, after I got gas, I did the normal Octane learning procedures when this car was stock, and it just seemed like this car never Octane learned. Like, I never seen over 15 PSI with this car, which is pretty interesting. Now, I brake boosted a few times, and I'm pretty sure the most I seen was 15, maybe 16 once for like a hot second. But this car never actually Octane learned. So with that being said, it probably was at the 240 wheel that they usually make stock from the factory. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes with the 23s, they're not going to Octane learn as well as the 22s, which may be a difference in that. But that's for another video, a difference of a 23 and a 22, subtle differences, but they are there. You know, when it comes down to it, comfortability now and driving, it feels comfortable in a DCT because you're not doing anything, but that car makes you feel like you're driving something that is almost stick shift. So if you're like on the fence, a DCT or a manual, I'm gonna be honest with you, with the manual, you don't have to worry about how heavy the clutch is. This clutch is not heavy at all. So what that means is, and this is not long throws, when you're in traffic, you know, it's very giving. There is not like, it doesn't get stiff. There is a moment where sometimes when it's cold, going in the first gear seems a little weird, but other than that, after it's like warmed up, it's fine. So you have comfortability in driving to the DCT, but this manual is just really good. Like, it's really well made and really good for what it is. Like, I've been driving this thing and it's not like I'm getting tired of driving it or being in traffic. Like going up North Jersey, it's definitely a lot of traffic spots up there, and I was absolutely fine driving this and just going through. But there is certain times where you're just like, oh brother, you know. So if you do get a manual and you're like, man, I wanted something a little, you're not gonna be like, oh damn, I should have got the DCT. But if you don't know how to drive manual and you just want something that's close to it, the DCT is really nice, and I do recommend it. But if you're going to be throwing power at it, I'm not going to recommend it much because of that slipping. Slipping is pretty scarce when it gets to the 390, 400 wheel torque area. The car we had was making 429 pound-feet of torque, which is way over the limit. I mean, I'm pretty sure the limit is upwards of 400 foot-pounds, but it got hot. Sometimes it didn't like to latch on. Like you'll hear it. Like I've said it to you guys many times. It's like it hesitates when it shifts. It was always third into fourth, fourth into fifth. Sixth seemed fine, but for some reason at that particular RPM, at like that 5,000 range to 5,500, it'll just stay stagnant and then it'll go. And it's like, it was kind of weird, and it definitely was taken away from the times that I could have had. Because that car, when it had Octane in it, I was able to run that 960 to 130, which was amazing. But then when I wanted to actually catch it on video, I could never do it again. And it was really frustrating because the trans would always slip after that. And like I said, I know we were at the torque limit. So is it possible to get a very low 10 on a stock DCT without the tune? Because we know the tunes are coming out soon. But right now at this moment, if you wanted to do that and be at that higher horsepower number also and higher torque, it's not safe on it, so I couldn't recommend it. But if you want to go a little higher, you want that hybrid turbo, or you want that MEF with a really aggressive tune, this manual is going to be the way to go, absolutely. Because this is always going to have more horsepower than torque, maybe just the way everything's set up with the manual. And if you want higher, you can always just throw a clutch in here. Clutches range from, I've heard $600. You got the Seca, and you got Exclusive, and there's another company. I'm missing out like 2 more companies. I'm going to get the name of those soon, but I'm going to go with one of those brands. I'm going to talk to them and see what actual numbers are and what the ratings are for these clutches that come with these lightweight flywheels. But for now, this stock clutch is really good. But if you're just messing around with a stage 1, stage 2 tune, either or is fine. But like I said, again, just keep in mind, when it comes down to it, it depends on how you shift. If you shift pretty fast and you're not like trying to no lift shift, but you actually go through the gears really good, you should be right on par with a DCT. I want to run a DCT that has a stage 2 tune also. If I could find one with MEF that's around this New Jersey, New York area, and you're on stock turbo, let's see what we do. Let's see what the difference is between those 2 cars on that type of tune do. And it would be interesting for sure. Another thing is, when it comes to dead stop, like you want to dig, if you got good tires, that's going to make or break everything. But as of with the Michelin Power Sport 4S's that come stock on the car, if both those cars take off from a stop, unless you absolutely dump this clutch at like 5,000 RPM, this thing ain't going nowhere and it's going to wheel hop. You're going to wheel hop, absolutely. The stick shift has the wheel hop way worse than the auto. So if it's warm out, it may help. If you got a lower motor mount, it'll help a ton. If you got the lower and upper, both of them won't have wheel hop, and it's all about the driver at that point. But when it comes down to it, most of the time, that DCT is going to regulate how to get you off the line as best as possible, and you're going to get those better 0 to 60 times. I was able to get a consistent on stage 2, consistent 4.2 to 4.4 0 to 60. With this, I haven't been able to do any 0 to 60s, but I've been seeing still the exact same, like 5 point something, and we're spinning a lot. So it's all about the footwork when it comes down to it. But the fun part about this manual, it is all about the driver. And for me, that's the greatest part of it, because I really enjoy driving stick shift cars, and I really feel like you're able to get feel the most of the engine and really get a feel of the car full force with a stick shift transmission. So you really can't go wrong. And another thing is, the manual is louder. Now, on a decibel scale, I believe the DCT was around like 115, 120-ish with the downpipe. This is about 120, 125. This is noticeably louder. And if you ever ran into me before and you met me with that car and you heard it, you'll hear that one. You've heard that one. And this one is much louder. Like, the pops are there more. And this is no pop tune, nothing like that, and it pops a lot. The pops and bangs are actually great. Like, I don't want any more or any less. So you keep that in mind also. With the manual, you get more pops and bangs, and it's really fun. When you got a downpipe, every time you shift, you got a nice little pop. The rev match, however, sometimes likes to guess with the rev match. So say you're going from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, sometimes it might try and rev match thinking you're going to downshift, and you actually end up like, you go like where you just wanted to be like pop, you know. So sometimes I find myself turning the rev match off if I know I'm just like cruising, chilling, and you can rev match yourself. But there are levels to the rev match which you can have in your custom mode. So your custom mode, you can change all of that up. So my honest opinion is, when it comes down to it, what's better? The manual is better by a good margin. It's just overall more fun. There's nothing weird going on with this transmission. I know some cars I've driven like to spit you out of gears. You know, I love my Mustangs, but the MT82s do like to spit you out of third gear. Sometimes fifth is weird. This car, I haven't had not one issue except for that occasional first turn on. If I start driving within 2 minutes of turning it on, it's like something blocking you from getting all the way in first. You usually just go into second first, and then whatever you do from there, because I believe it has to do with the lockout of reverse. So from there you can just go straight into first, and there's no problems from there. Once it's warm, no issues. And this is 100% one of those manual transmissions that you can absolutely just power shift on and it will take it. And that's one thing that I really love about it. Some of the earlier Genesis is a little bit of a, you can't really power shift that transmission too much. You only know if you've driven one, and you can understand that. But this transmission, man, is just great, and it makes me have more respect for the car all in all too. This is just a better, this is a driver's car, and for this to have a manual, it's so much better. And I can't even preach that enough. Like, I enjoy driving this, and I want to drive. I already have 1,500 miles on it in 2 weeks. Yeah, it's been about 2 weeks, and we have 1,500 miles. So that just goes to show you that it'll make you want to drive, which is really hard, because sometimes you're tired. You just get off of work, or you had a long day, and sometimes you don't want to be bothered with shifting, or you feel like it's a chore. But when you're like me and you've driven it for years, or you know, you work with cars or something like that, this transmission is really not one that's going to beat you up, and you're really not feeling stressed about driving. Like, oh boy, okay, oh, I'm at a light, oh, I'm at a hill. That hill start assist is amazing. Like, yesterday I was in New York, upstate New York, and somewhere in Mount Kisco, I'm on this weird roundabout that went uphill like this, and it was a pretty good like uphill, and if you put it in gear while you're on the hill, it will hold you there for a full 3 to 4 seconds before you start actually rolling back. So it gives you time to really just go ahead and start going. And it's really, it's such a plus in this car, and it's really nice. And man, again, if you're on the fence, you could try the DCT out, but if you drive this manual, you're going to fall in love. Absolutely, you're going to fall in love. This is a very easy clutch. Anybody can learn to drive this. The engagement, like where it actually grabs, is a little tricky at first if you have it in normal mode, because you can't hear anything in normal mode or eco mode. But if you have it in sport or the in mode, then you can tell where you're at. You can hear it. So if you're someone that's like, I don't know if I want to drive stick, but you still want a little bit of sensation, the DCT is very good. Like, it feels like an in-between of a manual and a regular automatic. Like, you still could like blip the throttle a little bit, and it takes a while, like, you know, like a normal DCT. If you don't know, it acts as if it's a 6-speed or 5-speed, a manual transmission, and you like tap the throttle and be like like it's catching. So that's a really nice plus for the DCT. And just kudos to Hyundai for just really putting together a really good car, because again, for me, the Veloster changed my whole way in my life of, you know, thinking about Hyundai cars, and Hyundai just knocked these out of the park with this car. $34,000, $37,000 out the door for this 2023. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to tell you the differences of the 2022 to 2023, and then I'm going to explain some of the issues with the 2022s. So thank you guys for watching. Have a good Sunday, and stay safe out there. If you aren't subscribed, subscribe to the channel if you want to know more about the car and what I do with this car. Now, I'm going to be having some wild things planned for this, and yes, we are still going to go turbo in this thing. I want to go for the stock turbo, as close to the stock turbo record as I can before I put that turbo in. And then we're going to talk clutches, because there's really not much out there about what clutches to go with and what options are out there. So I'm going to try and get you all that content and still try and keep uploading at least 2 to 3 times a week. So again, thank you guys for watching. Peace out.